Welcome back to Getting Down to Business. On this episode, we have Leslie Riggs talking to us today about how she saves her clients money with their merchant services. Now, what are merchant services? Well, most businesses accept credit card payments, but every time a customer swipes their card, the merchant, aka the business owner, is charged a small fee to use that payment service processing. Leslie uses a free consultative method to audit the merchant statement and seek out the fat that can be trimmed down significantly. This can save the business owner thousands of dollars a year by eliminating those hidden fees. Let's get down to business, but first, if you aren't subscribed and you've watched 3 or more of our episodes, we have beef. Just click that subscribe button for the YouTube algorithm, smash the like button, and if you're a dentist, leave us a comment for a chance to win a copy of Norton Henley's book, Getting Down to Business. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's start the episode.
Leslie. I know her more than I think anybody on this podcast. I've been working with her a little bit with some clients. Can you kind of just explain what your company does and how you help businesses with their merchant services?
Sure. So I work with a company called Propeller. It is a company that was founded by the founders of Card Connect, which has been around in the merchant services industry for many years. They sold the business to Fiserv and then started their own business called Propeller, a very mature executive team and sales organization and support organization, but a newer name in the industry. I got into merchant services after having an extensive career in corporate enterprise technology sales. I started off my professional career at ADP, selling payroll and HR and time and labor software. And over the years, I just found that I really wanted to do this for myself and build a business for myself that could last a long time. I found merchant services by actually working at another company that had a merchant services division. And when I was introduced to it, I thought, wow, this is a perfect fit for me because I like technology. I like helping clients solve problems. It makes me feel really good when I can listen to a client talk to me about a challenge they're having in their business, whether it's a cost issue or a process issue, and I can bring a solution to them. And it just feels wonderful when you can actually implement that solution and support that client. So merchant services fits that for me. What merchant services is, looking at how a company accepts payments. Payments used to be just checks, cash checks and credit card. And now it's gotten into not only, of course, debit card, but crypto. And then there's different ways that we pay, whether it's paying at a credit card terminal at a store or medical practice, or it could be a mobile technology like Apple Pay, could be on a website, could be by phone. There's so many different ways that we pay now that we don't even probably as consumers really realize how many options we do have to pay. That process can be complicated, it can be expensive, and it can be inefficient. So what I do is I talk to businesses about how can I help them keep the costs down, make it as efficient as possible, optimize the use of technology, and reduce things like errors and frustration, and get people paid quickly with the least effort possible. So I meet with businesses and I talk to them about their process. I offer a free review of that process to look at how they're accepting payments, where they're accepting payments, what they like and don't like about their current process. We look at the cost to try and see if there's any areas where I can save money for them, whether it is an area of cost where it could be just the literal what they get, what they get on their statement every month, but also there's cost of all those other pieces of a manual process. If there's not integrations between their software, that could be a cost. Could be errors, could be accounts receivable that's not being collected on time or never gets collected. There's different areas of costs that I can help with. So that's kind of what I do is I use my background in technology and working with people to solve problems that help them move towards their goals and objectives.
What could be some of the biggest reasons that businesses overpay on their merchant service fees?
That's a good question. Basically, there's different ways that a company can be set up as far as how they pay for merchant services. There's different forms of how a sales organization structures the pricing. So flat rate pricing, tiered pricing, interchange cost plus pricing. Those are typical ways of looking at pricing a merchant. Merchant's just kind of the word we use in the industry. So Anyway, those are traditional ways of looking at pricing a customer. Then there's also pricing options where we can actually eliminate or substantially reduce fees beyond those methods that I just mentioned, which I could go in more detail about. Then there are another surcharging and dual pricing and cash discount options, which is basically sharing the cost of the payment processing with the customer. So you see that at the gas station. That's the basic method that you're seeing these days, is the kind of the first method of how merchants started passing the cost of payment processing to the customer. Was when you go to the gas station and you see a cash or card price, you get the option to choose. Do I want to have the convenience of paying with my card at the gas pump? And for that, I get rewards. Often if it's a credit card, right, I get my hotel or dining points or discounts or cash or what have you. Or I could walk into the gas station store there and make a payment by cash at a lower cost. So that is because there is a substantial fee around payment processing. So I'll talk about the dental practice owner. When they accept a credit card payment, they are accepting that they have to pay for that convenience that the customer is getting. Typically, it's 2 to 3% that they're absorbing as a cost on a monthly basis to accept credit card payments from their customers. With everything going up in price, you're seeing a lot of businesses of all sorts. When you're going in as a consumer, you're seeing that option to pay by card or cash, whether it's a surcharge or a cash discount, or like the gas station model where you're seeing the two prices presented to you. What I do when I'm looking at the cost of the payment processing is I'm taking a merchant statement, which is basically the statement that the dental practice receives on a monthly basis, showing all the detail of how their patients are coming in and presenting different types of credit cards and debit cards. And different cards have different fees associated with them. And that's usually because of the type of card, whether it's an American Express, Visa or MasterCard or a debit card. The types of rewards programs that go with those cards can be very expensive. So there's more cost to that card. Dental practice has to accept that fee. They don't get to choose whether or not they pay it. They basically are getting a statement at the end of the month saying this patient's charge costs this much. So there's a lot of detail in these statements that the dental practice gets.
Money's no object. What are you, crazy? I'm not paying that much.
And then we are running this statement through an analysis tool to look at, is that cost the wholesale rate that the Visa MasterCard assigned to that particular card and payment, or has it been padded with extra cost or hidden fees? We're looking for those areas where we can pull out the extra cost and reduce the actual overhead cost of the statement. When I first got into the industry, related it to when I would get my old mobile phone bill and it had every call I ever made, whether it was incoming or outgoing, whether it was out of the area or what have you. There were all these different little minute charges that became my cell phone bill. And I didn't know how to decipher it. I saw all these different costs and I'm just like, I just paid it. Ultimately, I just kind of stopped looking at the bill. And then a year or two would pass and all of a sudden, I'd look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, my fees went up a lot. What happened? It used to be this much, now it's that much. Just this kind of a creep that keeps on going up. If people don't stay on top of checking on their statements, the fees will creep up. Just like when you call into customer service and say, well, why is my fee so high? Sometimes they'll reduce it down because they don't want to lose you as a customer. What I'm doing when I'm auditing the statement is I'm looking for those hidden fees and looking for opportunities where we can cut the fat out of the cost. For one of your clients, in fact, we did that a couple of years ago. I did this analysis for them and we saved them about $8,000 a year. And that was just strictly from changing over to our system. I think they were on a tiered pricing. We took them to what's called interchange cost plus pricing, which is basically taking the Visa and MasterCard pricing tables, using wholesale pricing, which is the interchange tables given out by Visa and MasterCard. And then we make a slight markup for our profit and cost. And we disclose all of that to our clients. So they're able to see kind of a before and after, like a makeover of their pricing. And that's how we're able to save our customer the $8,000 a year on their merchant services. Since that time, we've been able to save them more by actually moving them to another technology on top of the payment processing that integrates with their practice management system. And that is now automating the inputting of the payment processing information into the practice management solution. They use Dentrix. So they've just recently implemented that. It's using the most state-of-the-art technology, which is called robotic process automation, along with AI, to replicate the manual data entry that usually is required when you have your payment processing and you're taking the payment, and then you have to rekey that data into your practice management, and we're eliminating that step using technology. So that's helping them become more efficient. It's helping them reduce errors because they don't have to re-enter data. That's important, that financial data. They're loving it. When they saw it, they're like, wow, this is what I've been wanting for so long.
Do you just integrate with Dentrix, or can you integrate with other softwares like EagleSoft, et cetera?
99.9% of the softwares out there that are practice management systems. It doesn't work with like Apple technology, but that's very minimal. So if you're a Windows-based system, that technology will work. And it gives the practice owner the ability to get into their data no matter where they're at. They don't have to be at the office. They could be at home or out remote. They can see what's going on in their practice without having to be at the office, which is another benefit to this particular software that this particular practice really wanted. They didn't want to have to be at the office to log into their data.
Can you tell me if there's any common obstacles or challenges that you have been able to overcome in the process of doing this with clients? Or
the biggest obstacle, and I think you've experienced that in me working with some of your clients, is actually getting the merchant statement.
yeah. Yep.
It's not uncommon to hear that they don't know how much they're paying or how to see their statement. I think some of the organizations that do this kind of work don't want to make it easy to let their merchants see their statements, because
they might start asking questions.
Yeah, exactly. So, or they just bury it like down within the account settings, or they don't proactively push out the statement. Like, you know how you usually would get your bank statement in the mail. Now you have to log in somewhere to go get it, or you have to call customer service to get it. So that's actually one of the most simple front end challenges that I see, is just getting the statements from people. And we need them, or it's highly useful to have the statement for the analysis work that I do, because we're able to go in and really hone in on where, what are the merchant interchange tables for dentistry, for instance, versus what they're being charged, because that's where you wouldn't know what the rate difference is. If Visa says they're going to charge 0.0027% on a particular type of line item charge, and they're getting charged 0.03%, they're not going to know. They need someone like myself that's got the software technology to be able to go in and slice and dice and find those areas where we can actually bring the cost down.
Like if somebody's paying a substantial amount and what it could go down to, you can look at that and say, right, wow, I really could save a lot of money for you.
Also when we look at the statements, we're also seeing like how much are the patients paying in the office, or are they sometimes prepaying on the website? Because some organizations want to let their patients kind of do the new patient package and get a credit card in there early, because that helps with things like no-show rates or last-minute cancellations. Yep. Credit card on file, we can help them make sure that the patient stays committed to that appointment or cancels in a reasonable time. We look at, where is the patient paying? If they're paying on the front desk with a credit card in person, that's a safe transaction, and the cost is lower than a virtual transaction over the phone, where you may get a phone call from somebody and they're paying for something, because there's risk about whether that person is the owner of that card. There's a lot of things that are looked at as far as the cost of a transaction, depending upon where they pay and how they pay, and the industry that the card is in. There's so many different facets I'm going into. They're probably beyond things that you would really think about when you think about credit card processing, but they're all factors in how much does it cost to process a credit card transaction these days.
I do kind of get what you're saying, especially when you use the phone bill analogy, because we've all seen our phone bills and we all see, fees that are associated with our phone bills. I've never been able to get my phone bill to go down by arguing about the fees. But
like, you call in, you cancel HBO or Cinemax because it's too expensive, and then they're like, oh, we have this special package and for new.
It's really crazy about that, because I did actually call for my cable, because I'm old fashioned. I do have cable. There's, I don't think, maybe Josh doesn't have it. I don't know if Rachel has it, but I think a lot of people that are younger usually just have like streaming services. Like they don't really subscribe to the normal cable, whatever. But I called them probably a couple of months ago and told them, like, I can't pay this bill so high. This bill is very high. Like, what can I do to reduce it? I mean, we were getting ready to just be able to, like say, well, let's just turn it off and we'll just do the streaming services. And they came back and said, well, what? I mean, we can still give you all the movie channels that you have, but what do you like? Sports? Do you like? And I said, all I want is my HGTV. Like, I just want HGTV, but you can eliminate whatever else you want to eliminate. And they took like almost $100 a month off my bill. And we have all the movie channels still. We have most of every channel that we watched before. And it's just amazing to me that they took off, I think it was Magnolia Network. They reduced for like $100.
They got away with it while they could.
Yeah.
Were able to call them out on it, then they brought the fee down and didn't lose you. If I found, for the other practice that we saved the $8,000 for, probably if they called their customer service team, they probably could have gotten their fees reduced. But obviously, I'm trying to bring them to my team, so
right.
But also, the dentist or office manager or whatever, they don't know what the fees could be. So the idea of calling different merchant services and trying to renegotiate a fee, it's like, I don't even know if it's going to be worth my time to call, and who has the extra time to do it. So that's one of those things that creeps up that you think is like the last thing I'm going to spend my time on.
I do not have time for this. I do not have time for you.
I make it like a no-risk audit. Basically, all they do is provide those merchant statements, which again is kind of sometimes the most challenging piece. And then I do the back on my side, I can basically do that review. And before they spend any more time with me, other than just pulling those merchant statements, I can tell without having talked to them about how their systems, where they take payments and all those other complexities I just talked about, I can give you an idea of whether or not I'm going to be able to save them any money. If I can, be happy to talk to them further and talk about their processes and see whether there's any process improvement I can, offer. But at least I can say I can save you X number of dollars per year, and maybe more depending on, how we evolve things and change things for you. Maybe I'll say, hey, you know what, you've already got a great rate. That happens.
There could be a bigger business impact, right? I mean, more than just you saving like the business that you saved $8,000. If a practice goes onto your system and uses your system with the AI, and they're automatically posting payments, then the person that was originally spending time to post the payments can actually do other things in the practice that could generate more revenue.
Yes, in fact, that practice has been with me for, I think, about almost 3 years now. Eric had referred me to them, and that's how I started working with them. Initially, I just saved them money on their payment processing statement. And then in the last year, this new technology came about, and the practice owner's wife, who also runs the office, basically had interest in doing more around looking at kind of process improvement with her staff as she was making some updates in the office. And that's where we started looking at some different software. And once we came across this particular technology that I'm mentioning, she was like, oh my gosh, that's what I've needed this for a long time, and let's do it. So that again is beyond just cost savings. That is process improvement, error reduction, AR improvement, flexibility for her, and being able to see the data from wherever she happens to be, because she's not in the office every day. Lets her decide whether or not she needs to hire another person to manage things, or maybe in this case not, because it's one less thing to manage for the office staff as far as, looking at the review of payments and who's paid, who hasn't, who needs to be on a payment plan or have collections called, or whatever processes they have to make sure they get paid for their work. We're in phase 2 now with this client. Again, first of all, we said we would save them money. We did. And then when the new technology came available, we implemented that. And so they're very excited about that now, because they've just gone through kind of a revamp internally on their processes. And the owner's wife wanted flexibility to not be in the office. Now we've got another one of the accounts that you're having me talk to, where she's recently acquired her practice. With her, we're looking at possibly maybe keeping her staff lean, because we can use the technology to do what a person would normally have to do in manually entering the data between the payment processing and the practice management system. So that can help her reduce her overhead costs for, staffing.
A practice that we are doing valuation services on, I mean, it probably won't be an immediate assist, it won't assist with increasing the value for that. However, in the due diligence process, when somebody's looking at that practice and what their expenses are, it could act, it's positive.
The cost as a whole, I'm sure everywhere you could trim to make sure that that practice is operating as lean and efficiently as possible, I'm sure makes it look like a better, obviously there's better decisions being made that have been put into place already to make sure that that practice is leveraging technology where appropriate and letting the staff really focus on taking care of, providing the best patient care possible. Obviously, I know that's very important in the medical industry to make sure that you're very service oriented. And so we try to help enable that in what we do.